Oh my word. Emily Dean's in our favorite friend Southpaw. I don't know if he's also CIA, but she she's he's one of the people she's been retweeting for years. They're buds. So on her Darth account, Southpaw mentioned the phenomenon of Mr. Beast, and he was talking about the psychology of how the elites pushed this channel. It didn't just work. And keep in mind, he's big on Google, YouTube, Google, the same people who made my cult, right? And it's so interesting to see how he psychologically clearly elucidates how them pushing in the algorithm this show where somebody with a lot of money dehumanizes people, the people he's claiming to help, he makes them do insane things that are also like breaking their spirit and devaluing their worth, but then he gives them money and it's all good, and he's a good guy. And I have described the Mr. Beast phenomenon and how it is absolutely a psyops to make this real, to make people transition from liberal democratic principles to fascist psychology, which is basically a post-industrial feudal system, right? The only class mobility isn't what you produce, isn't what you do. It's this king god who's immortal, being willing to do anything to serve him, not produce, like even humiliate yourself and become an animal, because it's an exercise of these classes being rigid. So that's what's different from a traditional feudal system and fascism. Is fascism does allow people to change classes, but it has that commonality which is relevant to the elites and why the elites promoted fascism after the Great Depression is that other classes can move a little bit, but only by serving the king god, meaning that class is immutable, immortal, just like the king in a feudal system. And that's where fascism and feudalism overlap. In proper feudalism, no class is removable. So somebody who's a serf could not serve the king degenerately, become a noble, right? It was all birth. And that's why feudal systems were much more productive, because there's actually more emphasis on what you're doing. In fascism, which is a post industrial, capital related cult, whenever there's shit scared communism might happen, it's basically the same psychology of a feudal system, but the only class mobility possible is if you're in a certain group by birth and you're willing to do anything for the king god leader. The dehumanization is very, very important in the Mr. Beast show because it's trying to get people who are born in America with liberal democratic values to lose them. Like, their life is worth less. They're dispensable. They could even die. And the person who has all this power, not paying taxes, not building infrastructure, is running these games for amusement that are deliberately dehumanizing the mark. But he's framed as a good guy because he gives money. And what it's basically making you accept is money is worth more than human life. You know, the most basic liberal principle is human life is sacrosanct, right? Humans are equal based on the equality of humanity. They're trying to brainwash you into this new Illuminati social order where the triangle system is immutable. It's the Illuminati social structure is extremely fascist, by the way. It's far right. It's basically a post-industrial feudal system, and the only class mobility is based in willingness to do anything for them, right? So it's not based on what you produce; it's based on service and acknowledging they are king gods. You can only please them, like people in cults in the past, how they would make sacrifices and do things for ancient gods. I think that's another reason they brainwash celebrities and influencers into Satanism and Baalism and all these things. I don't know when they started doing this. I don't believe it was forever. I would not be surprised if that practice became much more popular after the 60s when the CIA really kicked off. And the reason they want to do that is they want to brainwash everyone with a voice to think like a primitive human in pre-liberal times when like fertility cults were a thing. The way humans used to do, it's very natural for humans to do this, is make up a god and sacrifice your firstborn to it so you have better crops. Do anything, do weird shit for your self-betterment. The rise of monotheistic religions becomes more sophisticated than a lot of spiritual practices of other human groups, where they would do a lot of not productive things from a social perspective in spiritual belief and hope in eventual prosperity. Like, I was reading how the CIA, M16, and Mossad, and the KGB, part of the Epstein op apparently was making him tell people close to him, like in the inner orbiters, that he's a Paulist. I completely believe this. I believe they brainwash agents into like weird cults that are like primitive fertility cults and such. Like, and the reason that is so is the nature of a human in doing those practices, pre-organized religion, definitely pre-liberalism, is so primitive and easy to control, right? So those simple pagan practices, like my crops are failing, so I'm going to slaughter my best goat and sacrifice a child. You know, that's the kind of shit like human societies would do. Monotheism was literally a sophisticated evolution from the many pagan practices other groups practiced. And that's exactly why monotheism took over the world, because it was the most effective at making organized society. It literally, like, what all the big three religions have in common, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, is strongly condemning degenerate behavior. And the reason, like, we look at monotheistic religions as outdated, antiquated, making all these strict rules for no reason, but you have to keep in mind from the perspective of all human history. Monotheism was a revolution of civilization. Like, you can literally do this research, right? Like, I'm going back to Epstein, right? Part of the intelligence plot was him telling certain victims he's a Baalist, and the little St. James is constructed like a Baalist temple. Baalism is a Phoenician fertility cult that at one time competed with Judaism. And as a pagan cult, it did lots of antisocial degenerate things, like sacrifice children, sacrifice animals, conceptualize this deity Baal, and if they please him through doing antisocial degenerate acts, their crops will grow, they will have stronger children in the long run, whatever. All the monotheistic religions have this in common. Stop being a degenerate. No, don't kill your firstborn kid. Why are you going to sacrifice a goat? It's no surprise these societies, the ones who practice these things, did so well and took over the world. Who society do you see doing better? A primitive ignoramus who's so primitive, even with the level of a pre-liberal human development spectrum, that you think killing children and goats is going to help you? Or the one where it's like, that's not going to help me. I actually do not gain from killing my kids, any kids, or goats. Obviously, that one has a more superior thought to make an organized society. Hello. That's why the big three religions have this all in common. Despite the fact they're different faiths and believe in different gods and different regions of the world dominance, they strongly condemn all antisocial degenerate behavior. That's not the case with every pagan cult. It's actually really common in paganism, like meaning humans left to their own devices will take weird degenerate shit God wants them to do. The reason all those belief systems are stomped out is they are really inferior to any monotheistic religion, Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. Which society do you see doing better? The one where they're like, I'm going to kill my daughter to make Baal happy. I'm going to eat her baby and eat their heart. I'm going to do some voodoo spell that requires like breaking someone's skull open. Or the one's like, don't do that. Don't do that. Just get Yahweh, Allah, and God. Oh, don't do it. It's sinful. It's haram. It's everything. You know, we look at it's easy from the vantage point of, oh, I'm living in science a little bit. Religion is primitive. It's like, do you know what we were doing before that? You should look it up. There's a reason that she conquered the world. Okay, it's because literally, like, the monotheistic religions of this radical revolution don't be an antisocial degenerate. Every single one has that in common. They emphasize cleanliness, they emphasize hygiene, they emphasize purity, they emphasize not being an impulsive freak, they emphasize don't do weird, primitive sacrifices. Like, the kind of shit pagan cults do is like MAGA. Like, I have a faith that being dirty and getting COVID is great. Like, every religion has like incidental rules to protect against disease, by the way. So, like, even in that sense, because of all the cleanliness, purity rituals of religions, a lot of that was before medicine to keep them alive. They don't have that in every fucking human spiritual practice. Like, their reason, if you look at all the monotheistic religions, they really seem the same in like the overall structure, the core structure, which is being conscientious, being clean, pious, and not doing antisocial degenerate acts, is because that worked. And when you compare that to a cult that thinks eating hearts of like your firstborn child will make Allah happy, they're obviously not gonna do as well. Anyway, so like I was saying, I don't know when it became common practice for everyone related to intelligence, like the celebrity class, influencers, and the intelligence community, the lower levels, to do weird occult practices. But I'm absolutely sure that must have started after the 60s, because that's when the CIA and mind control and cults really start to kick off. And the goal is literally to break down the mind, make them an animal-like state, like somebody who's before organized religion. Like, never mind liberal. Like, you're a primitive creature I control. I'm bald to you. Like, you're out here eating hearts, hoping you get fertile. Like, you're below. Your level of development is below like some fucking backward ass Christian a couple hundred years ago. You know what I mean? I think that's why they did it, because it's they do a lot of these things where they split the mind. Like, they'll make someone be dehumanized and then say they're very lucky and they're getting things at the same time. Like, basically pimp psychology. Like, that's what pimps do. Like, pimps will take a girl. They look for the reason pimps look for young kids is because the brain is not done growing and the sense of self is a void. It's normal for kids who are like 12 to just copy their friends. They have no sense of self. And that's the kind of age a pimp looks for. It's not that they're pedophiles. It's that they're old enough to traffic, but they're young enough to easily break down and mold in their image. And they do stuff like beat them, rape them, then they'll buy them presents. You know, and basically it's slaver psychology, like how to break someone down and make them your property. Everything about them will just be you, right? And you can see the CIA does this over and over and over again to their marks, right? And I think getting all of the elites into occultism and Satanism and shit is a way of breaking them down. Like, on one hand, they're telling themselves, "I rule the world. I'm totally free." But then on the other hand, they're saying they're making them behave in a way that's even more primitive than Christians, while thinking they're more enlightened than Christians. Like, it defies reality that this works, but it did work. And anyway, a feature of the Epstein plot was him telling people around him he's a Ballist. He's not really a Jew. And this is like, again, these elites, they promote. Some of them do it knowingly, and some of them are brainwashed into it themselves. The idea that occult practices are superior to religion and like kind of an anti-religion. But it's actually a very basic mind control practice to turn the person who falls for that into a station lower civilization development. Like, you understand the reason pagan cults died out is because even Christianity was more sophisticated and enlightened, right? And liberalism is even more development upon things like Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. You know that, right? you get off acting like, no, ballism is the way. Like, you don't see this as an exercise to dehumanize you? So you'll do anything like a mind-broken slave? You're telling me MK Ultra didn't work? And anyway, a big part of Epstein was ballism, and if you don't believe those rumors, his temple is literally modeled after a Ballist temple, right? So, yeah, I was saying, primitive pagan cults were in competition with the monotheistic religions. And the reason they lost is because of the wanton antisocial, degenerate acts pagan cults do. Like, again, they're not all, like, not all are as bad as the other, but for the practices of Ballists, the Ballism occurred in Phoenicia alongside Judaism. And they were at one time competing spiritual practices, right? And that's why if you read Jewish holy books, there's literally there are whole ass religious passages about the god of the Ballists being up against Yahweh and Yahweh being stronger, because they literally had a problem of citizens straying from Judaism to Ballism. Think about the mind fuck that this guy, who's clearly an agent, is getting a lot of people to agree occult pagan practices are superior to religion, superior to liberalism, when it's the most primitive, devolved state of human. Basically, MAGA-like, the way MAGAs are like, if I shit on my hands and rub it on my head, I'm immortal. You know, like MAGAs just make shit up. And it's completely antisocial, and it goes against even basic religious common sense, which is like, no, be clean. What? It's unholy, you know. But MAGAs, because they're also reduced to almost a pre-religious, even if they think they're Christian, they're saying they're Christian, but they don't know what those words mean. They'll have them engage in behaviors that are completely antithetical to being a Christian, like celebrating contamination. Like you read religious, any religion, they have so many rules, like dietary, hygiene and cleanliness, like Jesus washing feet. Like the reason hygiene rituals and food rituals feature so heavily in religions is dying of disease was a huge problem that religion solved. It certainly wasn't solved by Ballists, like killing people and getting blood on themselves, right? But it was solved like with really weird, ornate, monotheistic rituals around food, around hygiene, and even if there's no scientific basis to these practices, there was an effect where what works came to be holy, right? Like, so, condemning sexual promiscuity. They didn't know what an STD was, but every monotheistic religion features this, right? Food rules, like both Islam and Judaism condemn pork. Why? Pigs are omnivores. And as omnivores, they're much more likely to carry parasites. Like most of the meats we eat are herbivores, okay? Ruminants specifically, they eat grass and they're very low risk to have parasites. But the pig is an omnivore. It eats a lot of meat, and that makes it a high risk to carry certain parasites that are extremely deadly. And there's a lot of speculation. The rules that are seen in two monotheistic religions against eating pork is because it incidentally helped people be healthier. There's so much to religion where you could imagine, if you could just get off your arrogance when people knew nothing, that the reason these things took off is because they actually worked for people, right? And when you look at MAGA, they're almost reduced to a pagan state. They may be saying they're Christian, but they celebrate sexual promiscuity. They celebrate filth. They literally celebrate contamination. Like, these are all very antithetical to any religion. Like in Islam, they condemn pet dogs because dogs are dirty. I can confirm they're dirty. I have dogs, and they're disgustingly filthy. They roll in shit. They're very dirty. But in Islam, cats are holy because they're clean, right? every religion has shit like this. It's not all the same. Like Christianity is okay with pork, Islam's not okay with dogs or a pig eating it, but they're all have a similar function. Like this shit's working. Let's call it holy, and let's call it holy. Let's call it kosher. Let's call it halal. You know, think about like everything you see the CIA doing is making people reduce to a pre-religious state and being happy about it, like an animal, like a pig, like a slave. And the ones who are MAGAs say, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian. He's like, well, what do? Have sex with everybody and then wipe my ass with my hand and eat it. And I'm getting natural immunity. It's like so antithetical to any values of any religion. And you can see that kind of shit in pre-religious pagan cults, because they would believe the way MAGA makes things up and is like, this is magical, but it's just made up and it's not tested to work or not. That's kind of like what MAGA does. That's what pagan cults did. If someone just come with an idea like, if I take this holy stick and stab you with it and eat your soul, your heart, I'm gonna get strong, and the god Blomamlock is gonna help me. That's the kind of shit humans were doing before monotheistic religions, where they're like, "You Philistine, you barbarian, you fucking pig," and it worked. That was the precursor to civilization, right? Buddhism, same shit. Huge holiness, self-control, not just randomly. More than any religious practice, Buddhism asks people to be reflective and think about the impact their actions have on society. And for a long time, Asian societies were ahead of us. Pagan cults, I mean, I know now it's trendy, like, well, actually paganism is better. It's like, no, it wasn't. That's why I didn't win. It really wasn't. Usually the shit some pagan cults do. I mean, maybe some, but we could clearly see the reason monotheistic religions conquered the world is, or Buddhism, which views the universe as a sort of god, is they were just more effective at instantly getting it right. Like now we have science to validate why some of these practices may have worked. Why pork is haram, why cleaning your feet's a good idea. Why not making human sacrifices of your child is going to help anything? The firstborn is usually the healthiest. It's just not going to help. Why are you going to kill a good goat? That's not going to help. Instead, valuing like reflectiveness, study, thinking, all that's at the stage of development and eventually liberalism, you know. But the CIA does this. It rewards people for being reduced to a pre-civilization state and feeling powerful and uplifted in that. We can see that element in how they made the MAGA cult. We can see that element in this cult they made for me. I went off tangent describing how the CIA making everyone with a voice into occultism is a way to reduce them to a slave, to break their mind that being a pagan is superior to even being a Christian when it's not. And so you act like a total degenerate animal they can control. They become your pagan god to you, and you become this simple, random, pre-civilized human they can order around. Like a weak civilization before it developed one. It's to mindfuck you in a cult. And if you don't see that, you really are a mark. Anyway, it's so interesting to see Emily Dean's The Agent and Southpaw, the so-called lawyers never working, vividly describe the psychology of Mr. Beast, how it's done to dehumanize the people they're helping, how money's contingent on dehumanizing acts, how it's setting the standard capital is more important than human life, the most pinnacle value of liberalism.
And they're cast as heroes for this, when it's literally just a huge psychological mindfuck to make the Illuminati society real, which is basically the Illuminati triangle is basically a fascist system. In the way in fascism, the top is untouchable. They stay there. Class mobility, unlike a feudal system, there is some class mobility, but it's only serving them no matter what. You have to do any degenerate act, and you have to view them as immortal power, and you become immortal power by serving that king god. The structure of fascism is identical to the structure of the Illuminati, their ideal world. And everything about Mr. Beast is getting you to engender that fascist psychology. Fascism was literally invented or promoted by the capital elites to stave off communism and keep the system going. And the core psychology of fascism at the top is immortal, reincarnating, untouchable. You can move up if you're in a certain class they deem acceptable, only through total dehumanizing service. The way in Nazi Germany, you have to be willing to do anything to kill a baby and say they deserve it. You know what I mean? And the feudal like Wotan reincarnating god quality of the leader at the top comes to be this borrowed delusional power you get by doing antisocial dehumanizing acts and becoming a slave. But you're convinced in your mind you're all good, pure, untouchable too. And that's how the system works. And the Illuminati structure is psychologically fascist, and everything they're doing in society, because their goal is to make this real outright. They're sick of pretending. They're sick of having fake elections. They're sick of pretending lives matter. And they want this to be the law of the world, right? And everything going on is to make that happen. And the psychology of Mr. Beast is an important exercise in getting people to accept that, to psychologically undo the brainwashing of liberal progressivism and democratic thinking into the only real power is capital. Capital is God. Capital gives you godlike power. Capital makes you a god. And you don't have value for what you do, how you produce, but who you are related to the capital system. And the only way to move up is to be willing to dehumanize yourself, to sell your soul, to be a broken shell, and only then do you take on the referred glow of these immortal reincarnating elites. It's a complete cult. And like fascism is a quasi-religious cult. And everything about Mr. Beast is to break the minds of the viewers and get them to accept those values. So I recognize that about Google Cult right away. Like, you're telling me you're so mad at a teenager, you're gonna make a revenge plot right away. People should have clocked that when you want to spend $150 million. Like, that's Epstein plot money. So okay, they're stupid, so they didn't clock it then. But you're saying you're gonna help by constructing a Mr. Beast like game where black people have to be the worst slur of something Mel Gibson would scream drunk and manic, being raped by a pack of N-words, and they have to literally live out in their soul this role of being antisocial, preoccupied with raping this one white woman, as if it were the worst slur of a drunken racist. And you're saying the reason you're going to do that is because she's a racist, so it'll be her worst nightmare or something. It's like, there are a lot of ways you could have fucked with my mind without making people live like a stereotype of a racist slur. And I would liken it to if the CIA of Germany had a problem, was as far right as us. And because they were so far right and so successful with destroying the people, at the year 2000, the intelligence community of Germany made a plot and told them it was a funny revenge game where they were going to go to progressives and make them act like degenerate Nazis doing wanton crimes and abuses in revenge to this Nazi. And they expected people to believe it's just a funny revenge game. And the reason we're setting that up is because she's a Nazi. So it'd be really funny if, like, Nazis who are actually progressives attack her. But anyone with a brain in their head can see, like, it seems like you want an excuse to make progressives do really spiritually breaking things, like act out the role of a Nazi and make themselves act like a Nazi and do crimes. And for that, they get money and a feeling of cult-like reward under the elites. Seems like you're trying to control and break down progressives. I mean, that's what I would think. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could have fucked with this person. They didn't involve a Stanford prison experiment, like take on the role of something deeply shameful to you from your history. The way, like, for Black Americans, making them act out the role of the worst racist slur of what Black people are, like antisocial criminals who are obsessed with raping white women. None of that had to happen to get me. I have no power. I live in my mom's house. I was a nurse before that. I'm pretty sure you could have made me feel really bad without forcing thousands and thousands of Black people to live as like the worst racist slur, so that inside their mind they're grappling with that, but like they're suppressing it because you're giving them money. The way a pimp will beat and rape and then buy you a nice new dress and say I love you to break your mind and split it so that you become easy to control. Kind of seems like that's what the CIA is doing to these people. But I'm told I'm the victim. I mean, I'm being victimized physically, but mentally, you're the victim. Big time. You're in a cult. You're willingly engaging in the worst racist stereotype for money. Like, Mr. Beast couldn't even dream of this shit. It seems very evident the whatever high level agent cooked this up, it was done deliberately to break the bottom's mind, to split it, to turn them into impressionable slaves they push around. The same way any street pimp finds a 13-year-old, like says I love you, then does an exercise where they beat and rape her, then says I'm sorry and gives you a dress, and then they alternate those things until she's so dependent on the reward and avoiding the negative feeling that she just has no choice but to completely devote to this person. Kind of seems like that's what the CIA is doing when they make you live like the worst and then give you money for it. It's almost like they're trying to say, like, that's what you are, but I reward you and I'm pulling you out of that, but I'm also putting you in it. And confused and mind fucked, you just attack the person screaming they're racist because you hate yourself. And you hate yourself because they're making you hate yourself. And all you have are other people in the cult to be like, this is really cool. But every one of you is probably fighting this awareness, like, I'm living like a stereotypical animal because the CIA is paying me to. And that negative beat down feeling I feel from that, I'm going to project on the victim. And that's an important exercise to make progressives psychologically fascist. So they're scapegoating now, right? In reality, the oppressor at the top is the cause of this feeling. But they've also come to depend on that source for a sense of importance and belonging and money. And they can then project all of that onto the scapegoat. Basically, that's the transaction in fascism. The same Aryan banker in the Weimar Republic who took your house, they were now asked to think of him as a hero whose hand was forced by the eternal Jew. The way these billionaires, their hand is forced by me. I'm making them act like a racist animal. I'm doing all this. Me existing is why the billionaire's hand is forced to do all this. They have to set up this rape cult and make them live in shocks because of me. The way in the prototype for fascism, the same banker who stole their shit in the Weimar Republic was now a victim of the Jew who made them do all these things, and now they're the Nationalist Socialist banker going to help. And the people of Germany, who had all their shit taken when they went broke and the Deutschmark went in the shithole, are believing this, and they're projecting their hate on kids in ghettos. And they're not mad at the National Socialist Bank of Germany. They're mad at that kid. They believe it, that the eternal Jew made the Aryan banker do all that. The way these people believe me existing, living my life, made billionaires dehumanize them racially. And then it becomes me dehumanizing them racially. They say they made me do this. They're so bad I had to do this. But I'm giving you money to fix it. It's the same shit. And it's all done to make progs psychologically fascist and turn them into a cult. So what the CIA does best is make cults. Anyway, it was very gratifying to see these progressive enlightened heroes so eloquently describe the problem of Mr. Beast. And I said, I'm glad you think so, because I was saying this for a while. And by the way, the same company that pushes Mr. Beast, which is YouTube, also made the cult you guys thought were cool and participated in. It's the same exact thing. Happy to help. It's about dehumanizing these people, not me. I'm being physically attacked. My mind is strong. Very, very. The only people who don't think my mind is strong are anime PFP throwaway accounts. Everyone knows I'm telling the truth, and I'm smarter than you. I'm more talented than you. I would have been a better doctor than you if we lived in a real society where I could have got trained for free. But because I was born poor and didn't go to school until 20, I had to finish high school. I became a nurse, but I would have been a better doctor than you too. You're a fucking nitwit and a moron. And yeah, just know this. This is a time of animals and pigs. And if you're doing well, that's probably you. The better you're doing, the more of a criminal by logic you are. And I'm so glad to see you acknowledge this because that's what I had said months ago. So glad we're in agreement. Google pushes content that gets people to accept the Illuminati social order, which is by nature fascist in psychology. And by logic, we can conclude another humiliation cult for money, which you all thought was a funny joke and revenge because you're so stupid. Is also with the similar objectives to dehumanize the marks, and it's not me. I'm being attacked physically, but the minds they're concerned about are these progs and pores, not mine.